Law of virtue in operation. Virtue is the way infinite eternal consciousness expresses in this universe as being. Instead of seeing virtue as an adjective that describes an inherent quality, think of virtue as an action that brings forth the operations of being. In other words, eternal consciousness is neither virtuous nor unvirtuous. It just is. However, the way consciousness gets expressed in the world of appearances is through virtue. Revealed in humanity. Virtue is a state of being that results from taking action with integrity from consciousness. In other words, operating virtuously is characterized by taking action from being. When you are immersed in the joy of existing, you are connected to conscience, and virtue unfolds naturally. You are called virtuous when you are operating consistently with laws of being. In the game of life, the point is to become more virtuous. Some people get stuck while others make great progress. For those striving to progress, virtue emerges as a concern from eternal oneness, which is the realm of perfection where everything operates with wholeness, integrity, and balance. When people's actions are virtuous, those actions support life and/or nurture well-being, which expresses care and compassion. Maturity involves acting out of virtue and conscience instead of being told what to do or acting from guilt or stale beliefs. Social manners, such as saying please and thank you, are building blocks of virtue because they teach us that there are proper actions to take. Proper action brings forth beingness because it focuses on relationships. Humanity's experience on this planet will improve as we live in being more and more often. Beingness makes itself known through virtue because when we align ourselves with consciousness, proper action is revealed. What makes a civilization great is the operation of virtue. Virtuosity is given from the structure of conscience. When justice is present, dignity results. People are considered just when they align with being by following all types of law. For example, people observe universal wisdom by following the golden rule. When reviewing actions, we can ask, did the outcome support well-being, and can that outcome be assessed as just? Proper application of law is a concern for humanity, and we are all held accountable for applying law justly. In the domain of being human, ordinary human time is tracked by the rotation and orbit of the planet. In the domain of being, time can be measured through progression and not through physical movement. Progress is an ongoing exploration. For example, people can progress by operating in alignment with laws of being and by reviewing their actions and learning from them. When people are immersed in the joy of being, they are outside the passage of ordinary human time. In such a state, they can have amazing insights and discoveries, as though experiencing eternity. For example, building strength of character is virtuous and is an accomplishment in being that is not measured in time the same way as getting a college degree. Applying laws of being, particularly in everyday life, is a way of operating from being and therefore returning to oneness or infinite eternal consciousness. Everyday life is connected with consciousness. However, some people denigrate ordinary life instead of respecting and honoring it as the bridge that it is between humanness and the eternal. When we allow consciousness to organize life, life flows effectively. Antithesis. The antithesis of virtue is having no reference point for operating from being. This means lacking awareness of the ordering of actions and relationships. When people are separated from universal consciousness, they make up their own opinions about morality. Making decisions about standards and values from a personal point of view can cause someone to miss the mark on virtue. In the extreme, having no reference to being is what is called evil. As human beings, we have a relationship with virtue by its absence. People have the possibility of acting unvirtuously. Some people get used to acting without virtue, and they become willing to accept the cost, at least for a time. For example, sometimes people act unvirtuously out of expediency, and they are subject to the consequences. Expediency is one of the great hindrances to operating from being, because when people get hasty, they tend to rely on their own resources and judgments instead of pausing to listen to the conscience of beingness. The choice is always whether to take action by connecting with universal wisdom or by limiting ourselves to the conclusions we fabricate from our own personal viewpoint. The question is, are we going to tell consciousness how life should be and how things should be done? Application: how to embody virtue. Virtue involves living a spiritual life in a worldly world. One way to live virtuously is by studying and applying laws of being. Whatever you give attention to develops, expands, and grows. Therefore, think about virtue, talk about it, examine what it means to be virtuous, and then take action based on this focus and awareness. Virtue need not be esoteric and unfathomable. Continue to progress into a mature and thorough relationship with virtue. By giving attention to virtue, we increase its emergence in our lives. Note that studying and applying laws of being will not lead to ego-based actions. Ego and physical human senses have no way of understanding virtues. This is part of the dilemma. Some domains of life, such as politics, are often ego-driven and thus deprived of authentic virtue. From virtue, humanity derives our values. It is effective to discern whether or not your values are consistent, coherent, and congruent with conscience, and therefore with laws of being. Confusing ego-based personal values derived from human senses with values derived from conscience can result in feeling misguided. A question to ask is, am I willing to live by the values I apply to others? Living with values that support well-being is an embodiment of laws of being.